This video is brought to you by Ridge Wallet, a slim front pocket wallet available in carbon fiber and titanium. With more than 250,000 sold, a lifetime guarantee and free shipping, get 10% off with the code GOLDFISH at ridgewallet.com. Hello everyone, it's Seth, probably better known as Saffron Olive, and it's time for another Instant Deck Tech. So this week, things are a little bit different. It is release week for Ravnica Allegiance, and instead of doing our normal mixture of formats, we are honing in on standard this week. It's Ravnica Allegiance week, all this week, standard decks, sweet new standard decks, and we're kicking things off with a really cool Esper tempo list from Wyatt Darby. Took it to a 5-0 finish in Magic Arena League, so congrats to Wyatt on a super cool deck. A quick reminder before we break down Esper tempo for standard. If you enjoy this deck and you want to see it made into videos, take a minute, click the like button, the subscribe button, leave a comment, anything you can do to support your deck, because whichever deck is most popular gets a shot at being made into videos next week. So Esper tempo, it's pretty sweet. One of the concerns with Ravnica Allegiance was whether the addition of Orzhov and Azorius to the format would just push Teferi out of control and make it way too powerful. But Wizards did a pretty sweet job of making Azorius and also Orzhov kind of a more tempo-y based guild than a control build this time around, and that leaves us with this really sweet Esper tempo deck without a Teferi to be seen. So this deck, it's really built around Hero of Precinct 1. Our deck is almost exclusively multicolor cards. We have a couple of Lyras on the top end. Otherwise, every single removal spell, creature, planeswalker in our deck is multicolor. So whenever we cast anything, essentially, it's coming with a 1/1 token kicker, which is incredibly powerful. You just play hero on turn 2, and for the rest of the game, as long as it sits out, it generates a ton of free value. So what are we casting to trigger our hero? And we start off with a couple of really good removal creatures. Deputy of Detention, also Hostage Taker, gives us ways to deal with almost anything. Deputy Detention literally exiles anything and any number of that thing until it leaves the battlefield. Hostage Taker gets creatures or artifacts. So between these two cards, we have a bunch of removal that's also on a body. So we're able to keep attacking our opponent with our threats, also triggering our Hero of Precinct 1. Then we have Thief of Sanity, which is really good against control decks. If we can keep getting in hits with Thief of Sanity, it spirals out of control really quickly. As we keep grabbing one of our opponent's top 3 cards, we can cast it. It's a really great source of card advantage. Also nicely on curve with our Hero of Precinct 1. Then we have one of the more surprising additions to the deck, Basilica Bellhaunt. And this card, I think people are sleeping on it a little bit. The mana cost, it is intense. Double white, double black, but you get a 3/4 when it enters the battlefield. Your opponent, each opponent actually, but in standard just your opponent, has to discard a card and you gain 3 life. So the power of Basilica Bellhaunt is this is a card that is relevant against the aggro decks like mono red, because gaining 3 life and having 4 toughness means not only are you kind of canceling 1 lightning strike type effect, but the 4 toughness means it's not going to die to most of your opponent's removal. So it's a great body to put up some defense on the battlefield. And then the discard means it's relevant against slower, more controlling decks as well, where you can get a card out of your opponent's hand. So a really interesting, powerful Siege Rhino-esque 4-drop for the deck. And then we have the top end finishers on our curve. 2 copies of Seraph of the Scales and 2 copies of Lyra Dawnbringer, our only other non-multicolor card in the deck. So Seraph of the Scales, as long as it doesn't get hit by an exile-based removal effect, it's really good. Against a deck like Mono Red, it puts up some defense, it dies, you get a couple of spirits for more defense. It's a pretty fast clock in the air. Death Touch means it takes down Carnage Tyrant. And then Lyra Dawnbringer, big lifelinking, also pumps our Seraph of the Scales, so really solid 5-drop to close things out. Then we have a couple of Dovin Bond Grand Arbiter, which is perfect for a deck like this. Unlike a control deck that typically doesn't have many creatures, in this deck, we have a ton of creatures. We're making a ton of hero tokens. We can make some Thopters with Dovin. We have these big flyers, so we're going to be able to +1 Dovin and get up to ultimate amount of loyalty really quick. And once we are drawing 3 of our top 10 cards with the ultimate, and probably still keep keeping Dovin on the battlefield, it doesn't just win the game like some planeswalkers, but that is a huge swing as we're digging through our deck to find our answers, find our threats, find whatever we need. So Dovin, kind of a perfect addition to this deck. As far as our removal spells, we get 4 Thought Eraser to attack our opponent's hand. The Surveil's also a nice upside, plus it's multicolor. 4 Mortifies, which has become the premium removal spell in the format because there are some really busted enchantments running around right now, primarily Wilderness Reclamation, which is the new hotness for the Turbo Fog decks, but also like Search for Azcanta. A lot of decks have good enchantments, Experimental Frenzy, so a really great option with a lot of utility in the format. Then we have a couple more utility spells. Discovery Dispersal, mostly there to churn through our deck with Discovery, but we can bounce something. And then Depose deploys a card that I think is also kind of a sleeper. Tapping a creature for 2 mana and cycling, that's fine. And then the deploy side, putting a couple bodies on the battlefield, and more importantly, gaining us life equal to the number of creatures we control, which thanks to Hero and all of our random removal creatures, we're probably going to gain like 6 or 8 life potentially when we resolve a deploy, is really good against the aggro deck. So a really sweet, kind of tempo-y removal option for the deck. Mana base wise, pretty straightforward. Bunch of shock lands, a bunch of buddy lands, 1 single swamp is our basic land. In the sideboard for control, we get Duresses, Negates, and Disdainful Stroke, so a bunch of counters and hand disruption. Karn, Scion of Urza, and Thief of Sanity give us some repeatable card advantage, also mostly for control matchups. And then for more aggressive matchups, Cast Down Vraska's Contempt, give us some removal, and then throw in Concentrate Consume, which is mostly a great answer to Carnage Tyrant with the back half, but exiling a card and cycling is fine as well. Some life-gaining removal, and that is Esper Tempo for Ravnica Allegiance Standard, and that's our It's a Deck Tech for today. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I will talk to you soon. Thanks for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, help us out by clicking that like button down below. And to keep up on all the latest and greatest, click that subscribe button. And don't forget to hit that bell icon to get alerts whenever we have new videos. And if you want to, check out some of our other sweet videos here and here.